Good morning, Ma'am Honey. I am Rohana Bandila. So my topic for today is all about pragmatics, exploring presuppositions and implications. So, what is pragmatics? Pragmatics is the study of how context contributes to meaning. It goes beyond the literal meaning of words to understand the speaker's intention and the listener's interpretation. This context includes the situation, the relationship between speakers, shared knowledge, etc. So pragmatics is the study of how context contributes to meaning. It considers factors beyond the literal meaning of words such as the situation, like where and when the communication takes place, the relationship between speakers, like their familiarity, power dynamics, etc. And the last one is shared knowledge, like common ground and understanding between the speakers. So, next one is presuppositions. A presupposition is something that is assumed to be true in order for an utterance to make sense. It's implied, not explicitly stated. So a presupposition is an assumption that is taken for granted in an utterance. It is implied, not explicitly stated. For example, the King of France is bald. So the presupposition in here, in the sentence, is there is a King of France. So the next one is John stopped smoking. So the presupposition in here is John used to smoke. So it's in the past already. So the last one is my car is red. So the presupposition in the sentence is I have a car, which is red. So the next one is types of presuppositions. The first one is existential presuppositions. Existential presuppositions are assumptions that something exists based on the way a sentence is phrased. So existential presuppositions, these assumptions suggest the existence of something based on the sentence structure. For example, the King of France is bald. This sentence presupposes that a King of France exists. The next one is factual presuppositions. Factual presuppositions assume that something is true as background knowledge for a statement to make sense. So, factual, these assumptions rely on background knowledge for the statement to make sense. For example, John regrets stealing the money. This presupposes that John actually stole the money. The regret wouldn't be relevant if the theft didn't happen. So the third one is lexical presuppositions are assumptions triggered by the meaning of specific words or phrases. So lexical is assumptions are triggered by the meaning of specific words or phrases. For example, John stopped smoking. The word stop presupposes that John was smoking before. The act of stopping implies a prior state of activity. So the last one is structural presuppositions are assumptions embedded within the grammatical structure of a sentence rather than the meaning of individual words. So, for example, in a cleft sentence, it was John who broke the vase. This presupposes that someone broke the vase. So, next one is types of structural presuppositions. The first one is cleft sentences. Sentences starting with it was X that who Y presuppose that Y happened. Like in the example in the previous slides, it was John who broke the vase. So this presupposes that someone broke the vase, which is John. So the next one is pseudo-cleft sentences. Pseudo-cleft sentences of the form what X did was Y. presuppose that X did Y. So, for example is, what Mary did was bake a cake. So this presupposes that Mary baked a cake. The next one is WH questions. Many WH questions presuppose the existence of one answer. So, the example in here is, where did you put the keys? So, this presupposes that you put the keys somewhere. The question wouldn't make sense if the keys had never been moved. So, the last one is comparative sentences. Sentences using comparative structure like more than or less than presuppose a standard of comparison. So for example is, John is taller than Peter. This presupposes that Peter has a height. So the next one is how to identify presuppositions. The first one is in negation test. If a sentence presupposition remains true even when the sentence is negated, it's a presupposition. So for example is, the king of France is not bald. Still, the presupposes a king is the king of France. So the next one is question test. If a presupposition can be asked as a question without changing the meaning, it's a presupposition. The next one is implications or entailments. An implication or entailment is something that logically follows from an utterance. It's a direct consequence of the statement truth. So for examples is, all dogs are mammals. So the implication in the sentence is, some mammals are dogs. So the next one is, John is a bachelor. So the implication in the sentence is, John is unmarried because he is a bachelor. The next one is presuppositions versus implications. So the feature is the presupposition and implication or entailments. So the nature of presuppositions is assumed truth, background knowledge. So for the implication or entailments is logical consequence directly follows. So for the negation test, presupposition remains true when negated. For the implication naman is becomes false when negated. So in the truth value of presuppositions can be true or false independent of main clause. So for the implication or entailments, true if the main clause is true. So this is the next one is the presuppositions and implication in an action. So the first example is, John stopped smoking. So the presupposition in the sentence is, John used to smoke, and the implication is, John is now a non-smoker. So the second one is, the cat that I saw yesterday was black. So the presupposition is, I saw a cat yesterday. The implication is, there might be other cats, but the one I saw was black. So the last example is, my neighbor's car is broken again. So the presupposition is, the neighbor has a car. The implication is, the neighbor's car has been broken before. So next one is pragmatics in everyday's life. So the first one is understanding sarcasm and irony. The second one is interpreting indirect speech acts like requests, commands, disguised as questions. The third one is resolving ambiguity in communication. And the last one is legal and forensic context like implied meanings in testimonies. So that's all for the introduction of linguistics. Thank you.